Hi guys, welcome to the video on elements and dimensions of matrices. So for elements and dimensions of a matrix, we are going to learn how to identify the specific elements of a matrix. This entire unit is based on the ACT. Matrices are on there and useful in plotting vectors and solving systems of equations. You're going to know you can do this right when I can ask you to find a specific element in a matrix by naming its row and column location. So first and foremost, let's just get right to it and understand that a matrix is a rectangular array of variables and numbers in horizontal rows and vertical columns. So rows run this way. Okay, so this would be row 1 here, R1, and this would be R2 down here. Whereas this would be column 1, column 2, column 3 running this way in this matrix. So, more important things about a matrix, the dimensions of a matrix. First would be given by the number of rows followed by the number of columns. So the matrix below has 2 rows and 4 columns, so it is a 2 by 4 matrix. So for the X up here, okay, that's me saying by, the word by. And a 2 by 4 matrix means it has 2 rows and 4 columns. So, just really quickly, identify the dimensions of the following matrices. Matrix A is a 3 by a 2 because it has 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, and then it has 2 columns. B, matrix B here would be a 4 by 1. It has 4 columns and 4 rows and 1 column, excuse me. And then matrix C would be a 2 by 4. It has 2 rows and 4 columns. Okay, moving on. Elements of a matrix. The individual numbers and variables in any sized matrix A, made up of m rows by n columns, those are called elements, or sometimes called entries, but we usually use the phrase elements to describe those. The individual numbers in them, there are exactly that many elements in as the dimensions multiplied out. So what I mean by that is a 2 by 2 matrix has 4 elements. If you have a 2 by 3 matrix that has 6 elements, if you have like a 3 by 4 matrix that would have 12 elements. So the number of the dimensions when you multiply those out tells you exactly how many elements are in each matrix. If I want to name the elements of a matrix, what I am going to do is list the matrix that I am referring to by a letter, and then I am going to use 2 digits in what's called, so this is called subscript here. So I'm going to just write that out for you. That's called subscript. You go ahead and you write out the letter of the matrix followed by some subscript to tell you the first number in the subscript would be what row, and then the second number of the subscript tells you what column. So A23 is actually telling me to go to row 2, so I would go down 1, 2, and I would be in this row here, and then I would go over 1, 2, 3 to be in this column over here. So if I just name some of, or find A22, for example, if I'm just naming these or identifying them, A22, I would go down to column 2, row 2, excuse me, which would be this bottom one here. That would be row 2. And then column 2, which would be 1, 2 jumps for this here. So A22 would be -3. So now that you've kind of seen that process, I'll do it again with A34. Oh, wait, A34, go to row 3, column 4, doesn't exist. And so it would be out here outside of the matrix. So I'm going to write NA, or just, does not exist. A13. A13 would be row 1 and column 3. So that would be equal to 0. And then the last one would be row 2, column 4, which would be -7. That's equal to -7. All right, and then basic row operations. You can add, subtract, multiply, divide the elements from each other. So if you call out certain elements, you can add them together, you can multiply them together, you can subtract or divide them. And then you can also add or subtract rows from each other. So let's just take a quick look at that so that we have a good handle on the basics of a matrix. Find the requested elements. So here I have a 5 by 5 matrix, B, with all the numbers arranged as is. If I was given this and said, oh, find B24 plus B32, that means I need to actually find element B2, row 2, column 4. So row 2, column 4 is here, plus row 3, column 2. So row 3, column 2 is here. So I'm actually doing 4 plus 0, which equals 4. So I'm going to erase my circles up here. The next one tells me to take B34 and double it, and then subtract B53. So B34, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3 for the row, and then column 4 is here. So I'm actually going to do 2 times 0, take away, and then if I go down to 53, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down, and 53 is this one here. Following the order of operations, 2 times 0 is 0. Take away a 1 equals -1. When I do what's called row addition or row multiplication, I am taking the entire first number in each row and subtracting from the second row, and so on and so forth. So I'll show you exactly how this works here. It says add row 1 and row 4 together. So row 1 is here. So this is R1, and this is R4 here. What I am going to do is add the 1 and the 3 together, the 2 and the -6, the 3 and the -9, the 4 and the -12, and the 1 and the 4 together to make my new row of elements. So row 1 plus row 4, the first one would be 1 take plus -3, which is -2. 2 plus -6 would be -4. 3 plus -9, which would be -6. 4 take away -12 would be, plus -12 would be -8, and 1 plus 4 is 5. So the new element, the new row that I would have here is, I'm going to rewrite my 5, it doesn't look good, is -2, -4, -6, -8, and 5. So then the second one, the second row thing that I have here is asking me, or telling me I should say, to take row 3 and go ahead and take away row 2 from it. So first thing I'm going to do is say, okay, row 3 is here. Row 2 is this one here. So I'm going to take away all of these. So 0 minus 0 gives me a first element of 0. 0 take away -1 is +1. 4 take away 2 is 2. 0 take away 4 is -4. And 0 take away 2 is 2. So the new row that I have is 0, 1, 2, -4, and 2. So that's it, guys. In summary, matrices are arrays of numbers arranged in a rectangular fashion. Sometimes those rectangles form squares, so you can have like a 2 by 2 or a 3 by 3. We identify the numbers called elements by calling out its row, then its column, based on which matrix it's in. And then you can do basic row operations like adding, subtracting elements, multiplying elements together, or sometimes you can actually add or subtract an entire row of operations, or elements, excuse me. And so that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.